Hi there and welcome to Network News, your regular update from Real Agenda Radio. I'm Tom Burgess and thanks indeed for joining us today. And today's show we will hear updates from UK organisations seeking to bring positive change. And you can listen and subscribe to Real Agenda Radio through Amazon, Apple, Google and Spotify and all good podcast providers. So here are the headlines. Leadership, yes, we need some. Play fair if you want to win. More councils only buy from fair tax suppliers. And the Compass Progressive Alliance ramps up. And the real living wage. We hear of new initiatives to reduce hardship. So let's find out more, starting with leadership. Now, the Prime Minister has resigned to the relief of many across all political parties and indeed many politicians across the world, including EU negotiator Michel Barnier, who said the departure of Boris Johnson opens a new page in relations with the UK. May it be more constructive, more respectful of commitments made, in particular regarding peace and stability in Northern Ireland, and more friendly with partners in the EU, because there's so much more to be done together. And also MEP Guy Verhofstadt said Boris Johnson's reign ends in disgrace, just like his friend Donald Trump. The end of an era of transatlantic populism, ? Let's hope so. EU-UK relations suffered hugely during Johnson's choice of Brexit. Things can only get better. Now this really is not about the party. This is about having a leader of our country who has vision, leadership skills, integrity, honesty and many more qualities that we expect of our statesmen and diplomats. And as Jeremy Paxman said, it's okay for old Etonians to become Prime Minister when they grow up, but they have to grow up first. So moving on to the tax, and as we know, the outgoing Prime Minister said it was his intent to reverse the corporation tax rise planned for next year before he finished his complete term. Paul Hebden, the acting executive director of Tax Justice UK, was quoted in the Times making the point that tax is about political choices. Businesses have already had a 25 billion tax relief handout this year without paying a penny more in corporation tax. And meanwhile, he added, millions of households have been asked to contribute more income tax and national insurance to pay for the pandemic. Now, during COVID, the wealthy saw their riches soar, yet the wealth remains undertaxed. It's unthinkable that a new Prime Minister would let big business and the wealthy off their contribution to our recovery during a cost of living crisis driven by runaway profits, he says. The patriotic millionaires added that it was economically irresponsible not to talk about raising taxes on the extremely rich. They said that they're waiting for the 11 Conservative leadership candidates to show they can manage the country's accounts. Could be waiting a long time, I think, for that, but it's really unfortunate that the candidates for this election are actually sort of competing on how much they will cut taxes without really so far being particularly specific about what taxes those might be. Still on the world of tax, away from the topsy-turvy world of Westminster, tax justice campaigning is having an effect since over 14,000 messaged their local councillors about fair tax procurement. Preston Council is the latest council to sign up for the Councils for Fair Tax Declaration, developed by the Fair Tax Foundation. And Preston voted unanimously to encourage fair tax practices amongst their supplier businesses. They are also calling for greater powers to exclude companies with links to tax havens when buying goods and services. Other councils are hopefully following soon. Southwark Council in London is expected to pass a fair tax declaration motion shortly. And research commissioned by the Fair Tax Foundation has revealed that between 2014 and 19, a huge 17.5% of UK public procurement contracts were won by businesses with connections to a tax haven. These contracts are worth a combined value of £37.5 billion. Furthermore, the UK loses an estimated $17 billion in corporation tax revenue as a result of profit shifting alone. That's a huge amount of money, which is not being collected by the government and is due. Now, you can find out more about this at taxjustice.uk, where you can also sign up to send a message to your local councils, and more information at fairtaxmark.net. That's fairtaxmark.net. So do give those links a try. Moving on to another campaign about the living wage, very important, and the real living wage, not just the government so-called living wage. On the 12th of July, we saw the launch of a major campaign to make the Royal Docks in East London Borough of Newham a living wage place. Over the next 3 years, a coalition of local, public, private and third sector accredited employers aim to increase accredited living wage employers in the Royal Docks area by 50%, securing a pay rise for over 3,000 employees. Before that, on the 4th of July, the Living Wage Foundation announced the winners of the Living Wage Champions Award 2022. The awards recognise and celebrate the living wage employers and individuals that are leading the movement to promoting the real living wage in their industries, supply chains and areas, leading to its standing contributions to communities and industries across the UK. Now, there were quite a lot of winners in various categories for these awards, so I'm not going to read out them all, but you can find out more at the Living Wage Foundation website. However, Catherine Chapman, who the director of Living Wage Foundation, who has been featured on the Real Agenda Radio in the past, said over 10,000 employers, that's 10,000 employers, have now signed up to the living wage movement, and their leadership is making a profound difference to lives of families and communities across the UK, particularly during the cost of living crisis, where paying a real living wage is more important than ever. And one more thing, 1 in 7, that's 14%, of third sector workers are paid below the real living wage, with over 3/4 of the public backing them to receive enough to live on. This is according to a new report from the Living Wage Foundation. I just find it incredible that employers can still pay people below what they need to live on. There are 5 million people in this precarious position. Now, apart from the unnecessary hardship it causes to so many people, it's another example of the government, i.e. the taxpayer, subsidising corporate profits and encouraging the shift of wealth in the wrong direction. So we need to change this. Now, you can find out more at livingwage.org.uk. So let's hear from Compass, the group that campaigns for a good society. Now, in last week's bulletin, we heard from the recent Future of Britain conference and also the work of the Britain Project to bring vision and leadership back into British politics and bring people from all parties together to resolve the key issues of our time. Now, in a similar vein, Compass believes that there is a progressive majority in this country waiting to be brought together and mobilised, not just to win elections, but to transform our politics and bring about a good society that they seek. As director Neil Lawson said, we need to win over our political parties to collaboration. For that job, we'll need everyone. The truth is that a progressive majority government is not out of reach. We need alliances in order to break through our outdated electoral system, which massively favours the incumbent. He also says we need these alliances to unite around a common agenda to win a progressive majority. We need alliances to face the challenges that this century brings: the climate crisis, the challenges of post-COVID world, rising inequality and the disruption on the ongoing technological revolution. You can find out more at compassonline.org.uk. That's Compass Online, one word, .org.uk. Now, briefly, in other news, Compassion in Politics has announced 2 new parliamentary sponsors. Rebecca Long-Bailey, the former Secretary of State from various Shadow Secretary of State in various positions, who I had a pleasure of meeting recently at the Patriotic Millionaires meeting in June, and also Rumi Verji, who became Baron Verji of Portobello in 2013. In his career, he's also responsible for bringing the Domino's Pizza franchise to the UK. And the Fight Inequality Alliance members survey for 2022 is out, and it gives a clear picture of how inequality has hit us hard during the pandemic. Amongst the findings, respondents told us that rising prices of basic goods and services, 68%, rising in unemployment, 67%, and the increasing gap between rich and poor, 64%, were the three most important inequality challenges faced during the COVID-19 period so far. So what do you think? Contact us on info@realagendaradio.org or on Twitter @realagendaradio or on Twitter @realagendanet or via our website realagendaradio.org. We'd love to hear your views. If you'd like a copy of my book, From Here to Prosperity, The New Political Agenda for a Sustainable Economy and Greater Social Justice, go to FromHereToProsperity.org. You can also follow me, Tom Burgess, on Instagram. That's Tom Burgess, one word, 2709. And there's several other Tom Burgesses, so make sure it's Tom Burgess 2709, where I post information related to Real Agenda Radio and the campaigning work in which I'm involved. You can read a transcript of the show with the links to the organisations we mentioned in our web on our web from our. You can read a transcript of this show with links to the organisation we mentioned on our website. That's realagendaradio.org. You can listen and subscribe free to the Real Agenda Radio on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Google and Spotify and more, where you will find a range of podcasts for positive change on Real Agenda Radio. Listen out for our next bulletin, where we'll bring you even more news from those working hard to bring change to our outdated and unrepresentative political system that is failing to serve the country well. We hope you will all want to get involved. Now, we know that we can achieve change if we work together, so that's what we're doing on Real Agenda Radio. The campaign groups and think tanks whose podcasts we distribute has a collective online following of nearly 1 million. Our challenge is to make sure that they all listen to Real Agenda Radio. Recent shows have included It's Bloody Complicated from Compass, a podcast from Shepherd Walwyn, the publishers of the Ethical Economic series of books, and Across the Benches from Compassion in Politics. Special thanks to our sponsors, Switch, the workstation for your browser. Do you find yourself with too many tabs open and losing your place? Try switchextension.com. Free to download, save yourself time. I do, and it's great. So, now, one thing is certain, people want to see change to a more compassionate and just society, as well as more courageous politicians prepared to do the right thing for people over party. It's not happening, but it can. It's urgent, and it's up to us to make it happen. Because that's the real agenda. I'm Tom Burgess. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.